2009, and then he went for his higher education, University of Edinburgh, and then he did his master's, his MBA, Finance and Strategy from Fordham um, University, and he's currently working as um, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Yeah.
sister, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. I think. Sorry, guys, I lost the connection. I noted down your introduction, Wes. Uh, I'll hand over the space to
Anything.
you to introduce yourself. Yes, please.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Yusra. Yeah, I will give a bit of my background. Actually, I'll share the entire story, like from LUMS till where I am now, because I started LUMS back in 2005. So it's been 19 years now, and I have like fond memories of LUMS. It was probably the best time, like it is for most of the people doing their undergrad. But I want to emphasize on the connections that I built during that time, especially like the friendships. They have gone a long way. The life skills that I learned during that time was has truly shaped my journey. Yeah, I was part of the LUMS Adventure Society. I don't know. I've heard it's become controversial now, but at that time it used to be a very, it had a great reputation. But yeah, that taught me a lot. Just getting to lead treks, getting that exposure. That was great. I don't know if Yasser Hashmi is still there. He used to be our patron. It was a yeah, it was the best time. It was amazing how it was. Um, so yeah, I just want to. Um, so the purpose of today's talk is basically I want to share my story like candidly, and I want to share how I've taken some unconventional path, um, and that I hope that it can inspire the people. It can help you navigate your journey in life in general. Yeah, so I'll get to it. I'll give you. I'll start with my early career um, after graduating for lumps. So before I move forward, I would really appreciate if everybody could switch their videos on. It would be nice to see some faces. Yeah, it's, thank you. Right, good to see you guys. Yeah. All right. So after graduating from LUMS, Um, I started my career in social sector. I worked at at a German aid organization called GIZ. Then I worked at World Bank. I worked at International Growth Center. These were all social sector organizations. So I worked across um, different sectors such as education. I worked on poverty alleviation. I worked on economic research. Um, and as I was navigating that, I realized that, there were so many things, so many challenges that Pakistan was facing. And I really wanted to find that piece where I could contribute the most. And I felt like education was one industry that could really make an impact. So that's where I eventually um, positioned myself. I went to University of Edinburgh. I pursued a degree in education, and when I returned, I joined a school that my mother had started about 40 years ago. It was a neighborhood school, which we turned into an 18 campuses network, and it was so she had a vision for like how she wanted to contribute to the education, generally the landscape of Pakistan, and we kind of did not go the usual route in private education system. We were working towards bridging the socioeconomic gap. So I came up with the model, which was a cross-subsidy model, where we would not say no to anyone who wanted education. So it allowed for people from different sort of social economic background to study together, uh, and that it grew to over 7,000 students. It's still functional. It's in Karachi. We have 18 campuses all across. Um, and so towards the, I think it was right before COVID when education industry was badly hit by like different regulations and all of that, and it was pretty hard to work in that space. Moreover, my mother passed away right before that, and until that point, I had never thought about, leaving Pakistan at all. I never thought about doing anything else. Yeah, I wanted to not be boxed up as an education industry professional, but I wanted to, I did not imagine that at that point. But then I realized like how the economic situation was also getting impacted. And that's where, like, as an entrepreneur, you have to see where does it make sense for you to place yourself. And that's when I was also interested in other spaces. I was interested in tech space. So that was the time, like right before COVID, I invested into a technology tech startup. Sorry, which was a food delivery platform. We were taking on the giant, but we were doing a wonderful job. Um, and yeah, that gave me a lot of experience of like, how the uh, startup ecosystem was like, made great connections, all of that. And then COVID hit, and then everything was like, in shambles. It was, yeah, we were gonna get, we had an offer, uh, clear exit at that time, but that did not work out. And then, like, we had to pivot, but that was like, that was great how we navigated all of that. That led me to also realize that how volatile the startup ecosystem is, especially in Pakistan. So we came with another idea that we would invest in technology services space. Founders who want to cater to international clientele while their back offices and things could be based in Pakistan. So that was something that we explored. I explored for a bit, and that was a great space to be in. And that's where I realized that it's important to also explore different geographies. Now, so far, like, what I learned, like how it was really important to constantly evaluate like where your career is going, what your ambitions are, but also try to build like unconventional path. And this is when I realized that, okay, if I want to explore other geographies, what can I do, and how can I place myself? So that kind of worked as an impetus for me to pursue an MBA. And before doing that, I started having conversation with people, like especially like my friends who had already done MBA. They gave me a lot of insight what it was like, and just generally people who were in different places, like what they were doing. And I connected with people in consulting industry, and that's where I realized that, that is one space where the learning curve is steep. You learn so much. It's a different kind of skill set, and it works across different industries. So that really helped me with identifying, okay, where the opportunity is, how I can break that label of being just an education industry professional, and also be able to work across different industries. And then I started looking into MBA. So people generally go like do MBA for three reasons, which are like, they want to move geography, they want to change industry, they want to change their function or grow into their existing function. And I decided to do all three. But I also had to figure out, okay, what area, like what place would be the right place for me, what industry would be the right industry for me, and what function would be. So when I started looking for the geography, like where to go, I explored all the different places. I had already gotten education from the UK, so I had an idea what it was like. Then I was looking into Canada since everybody was moving to Canada. It's easy path to citizenship and all of that. And while that is a like that's very important because you you never know like what might happen in Pakistan. So that's a concern that most people have having another citizenship. But then I realized that it's the most important thing is like how big the economy is or how many opportunities are there. And I had several cases like, where people did move to Canada, but um, they weren't able to grow as fast or be able to make an impact. Whereas there are so many opportunities in the US. So for me, US made a lot more sense. It's the biggest economy. And then once I figured out, okay, where to go, it's also important to understand how to break into a different geography. For instance, there are other places like UAE, Singapore, which are probably at par with like what pay scales are like in the US. But it's so difficult to get into those geographies because you'll never get a citizenship. You'll never be from there. And US is very that way, very liberal in that sense. So it was I think a clear decision for me. And then looking into, okay, what would I do? I could have started continuing on my entrepreneurial path, but it didn't seem like a safe option. I also wanted to play safe. I also wanted to take a step back. That's where I realized, okay, MBA will serve um, as a great platform for me to pave my career, my path into uh, consulting that I was already looking for. Now, when I started looking into universities, the first thing that you do is go to the rankings and you see, okay, these are the top 10 schools, these are the top 20 schools. I want to go there. Then for MBA, the M7 schools. And then I was like, okay, obsessed with that. I need to get there. And then I started once I started having conversation, I realized that a lot of these schools are based in very small towns. What do you do? Like they're not connected to industry. They you have to travel a lot. You have to, to network. It's not that easy. So then I realized, okay, the place where the school is based is a very important aspect. And then the third aspect was scholarship. Like, most of the business schools, they do not offer scholarship, or if they do, it's like so minimal, it doesn't make a difference. Like, imagine 180,000 for a business school degree is a huge amount, and a lot of people take loan. But even if you get the highest paying job, it's it's gonna take decade to like um, just pay off that loan. So it's a lot. So there's a lot that I had to see, and especially like coming from Pakistan, for us now it's become harder, which is why I was looking at the stats that there are more people from Bangladesh going to pursue higher education than people in Pakistan, to the US especially. Um, so now, when I was applying, I found out about Fordham, and I did not know because there weren't many alumni here. Um, One unfair advantage that we have, like people from LUMS, is that our network is huge and it's so strong all over the world, especially in the US. People are in great places, and that's where I realized that, okay, um, I would look into that. Those schools where most of the people have gone, and there are some schools that always stand out. Like for instance, I heard like when people were applying to UK, they would go to SOAS, even though it wasn't higher ranked, but just because so many LUMS alumni went there, people would keep going there. And it was the opposite here with Fordham, that there I could not find any alumni. There were some people who went on Fulbright, but in different school, not in the business school. But when I looked into it, and this was a friend from LUMS who went to Cornell for MBA, who told me about Fordham. I had no idea what it was like. She had worked with other people from Fordham. She's like, it has a great reputation in New York. So that's how I came across like Fordham, and then I applied. I got almost full scholarship, which is like very unusual for MBA programs. But then, like, Fordham is so generous with their scholarship, which is great. And in terms of like where it's based, it's like in the heart of New York, in near Lincoln Center. It's a great place to be in because like you're so connected to people, to the industry, and it has a great reputation in the finance industry. So that industry connection was great. I like when I was applying, I had heard that okay, if you go to a non-target school, you'll have to work really hard because companies don't come to recruit. But again, that was a myth. Fordham is a target school for all big four, for all the big finance firms in finance industry. So this was like it turned out to be a great decision for me. Now, the most important thing, the kind of support that I received at Fordham, I from day one, um, because the class size is so small. We were 70 students for in our MBA cohort, whereas if you compare it to NYU or Columbia, they have over 1,000 students. It's insane, like how you cannot get the personal touch, personal support here. The career advisors were so many of them, and you can speak to multiple people. You can like, just try to understand what you're interested in. So it was great to have that kind of support. And yeah, I think like I keep kept making strides, and I feel like people who have come from our context, who are driven, who have like more street smart, we are able to pave our path. And I feel like now look when I look back, I feel like it would have been um, great if I took this step earlier. But again, everyone's journey is different. It would look different for somebody who's in doing their undergrad. Like MBA is usually something that you would do with a few years of experience. But again, like that experience counts for a lot. So what kind of experience should you gain now if you are thinking, okay, I want to eventually do an MBA, or if you're an undergrad and you think like you want to move geography, you want to uh, you know explore opportunities in the US. So you can also do master's programs. Like I found out like MSF has a great reputation. Again, like in finance, it was great. Um, so those are like some of the things that you can very easily explore and make your own path. Now, when I started my MBA, it was within a month that I received a job offer. It was basically an MBA program structured as such that you get an internship. Internship leads to a job. So in the first few months of your MBA, your kind of fate is decided. So for me, it was great. I wanted to get into consulting. I got a job in consulting in Big Four during and I continued the same drive that I had, like trying to uh, get the most out of my experience. I did that at Fordham. I did that during my internship. I got converted to an experienced hire. When I got converted to experienced hire, they wanted me to um, uh, start full time ASAP. But now I had only done 1 year of my MBA, and as an international student, you cannot work while you're studying, like full time. There's like whole this visa thing that you have to navigate. But again, Fordham was like super helpful. They figured out what I needed, the kind of support I needed. So now I'm finishing my degree early, which is not the norm. Like people don't do that. I'm finishing my degree in one semester, like I'm doing entire year worth of courses. And yeah, so I mean, uh, this was great. Like the support that I received and which has made it possible. But the important part is like what I realized, like the more proactive you are in your approach, and the more open you are, things get easier. Like I could have been like with my experience in the past, like in Pakistan, I've seen a lot of people become very rigid. They don't want to explore other spaces. They don't want to take a step back. They don't want to start fresh. But I feel like the the place I was in Pakistan, I'm in a similar space now, especially in terms of the kind of networks or the connections I've built over the past couple of years. So yeah, I mean, I just want to encourage everyone to look beyond like rankings, or like, what's like the obvious, what looks like an obvious path. Look for opportunities. It's very important to leverage networks. Lum's network is amazing. We need to like connect with people, hear their stories. You'll find so many stories where you would be able to connect with. And yeah, I mean, it's all about embracing change, especially like, where what Pakistan is going through right now. It's extremely important to really like try to open doors for yourself. So yeah, I don't want to continue more. I would like to take questions. And yeah, and Nikki, who's um, here with me from Fordham, she is the director of admissions, especially for MBA programs. But yeah, I mean, she would love to elaborate more on the master's opportunities as well. If you want, we can definitely even share some of the slides where you can get some idea of what it's like. But yeah, I would like to start with some questions now.
Yes,
So,
Fareed. Okay,
oh,
Zainab, go first.
sorry, I couldn't recognize that. Thank you so much, Awais, for your lovely session and for your sharing your journey with us. While I have seen the like email of this session, I was not very much sure to join it because I thought it was an MBA. It is an MBA session, and it was something irrelevant to me because I am somehow same like your journey as I'm pursuing MPhil in Education Leadership and Management from School of Education LUMS. So I'm from and working the same in the development sector, one of the national biggest national NGO Ghazali Education Foundation in Pakistan, working in the education sector. So really find it very much relevant to it. And the first purpose of joining this session is just an MBA because in future I I am looking to it into it. Okay, how could I? But the same question that you have like gone through. Okay, how can I change my field? And these all are the unanswered questions in my head. So that's why it's very relevant. And I was just waiting when you will stop and I will ask a question because it's very relevant to me. So I have two questions. Number one is you have talked about the admission criteria of this university. I'm very eager to know about that. And sorry, may I join after the azan because it's so near. You can't hear me.
All right.
Zainab, can you type your question in the chat box? Meanwhile, we'll take Fareed's question.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for the session. I really enjoyed it. So I have been applying for MBA to a few places in United States. And after my graduation at LUMS, I had a degree in political science. I started working on my startup. It was recognized as the best startup in Pakistan, eco-friendly startup by United Nations. So I had two questions that I wanted to ask specifically. Number one was that I did not pursue a full-time job like after my degree. Like I did work at some places, but that was more part-time because I was focusing on my startup. But in MBA, is this like a plus point or a negative point when admissions are being considered? And secondly, uh, what tips would you like to give for funding, to secure funding? Because I was uh, in talks with a university in California, and I had various people in the pipeline, like even the dean of school of business. He was in contact with me, and they wanted to secure some funding for me, but they said that unfortunately fundings are very less in MBA. What I ideally wanted was that I should get full funding and stipend, And I also looked at Fordham University, and they are offering this just to one student per cohort. So these are my two questions.
Right. I think we should take one by one, otherwise I'll forget all the questions. Um, so, as far as Zanab's question on the admission criteria, I would like Nikki to elaborate more on that. Nikki, would you be comfortable doing that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So
All
the
right.
question was just, hi everybody, my name is Nikki DeCastro. Good evening. So the question was just the application requirements, is that correct? Just in general for MBA?
Yeah.
Okay. So generally speaking, I do want to just confirm, we are pretty strict when it comes to professional work experience, and that means professional work experience post-graduation. So this does not include internships. So I think there's just some background noise, so I'm going to mute the person I see. Okay, all right, perfect. With that being said, we do require typically 3 years of professional work experience at a minimum. So we do want to see that on your resume. We also will require English proficiency exam. So that could be a TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo. We'll need your unofficial transcripts for the application review. And then we will be going through an interview process. It is required. It's a 30-minute non-technical interview, either with me or a member of my team, just to get to know you, right? Sometimes that's our first interaction with a candidate if you don't join our info sessions or events. Like Ove said, we are a smaller community, so we do try to get to know you one-on-one, even during the application process. I like to know all of my candidates ahead of time, get to be in touch with you guys ahead of time, because once you join, it's, another home away from home. So I want to make sure it's a smooth process. Those are typically our requirements. Some optional items is our GMAT GRE. Most of our students do not provide a score. It is up to you if you want to provide it, if you think it's going to enhance your application. Another optional aspect is the letter of recommendation. So I always encourage students to provide if you can. The reason why we keep it optional is just in case your recommender is too busy to provide it and that delays your decision, then we are not able to do anything from our end. We have to keep it as is, and that just delays your decision even further. So we make it optional for you. So hopefully that clears up the requirements for your application. And it's similar for the master's program as well.
Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah.
Shazil Munir.
So I would like to respond to Fareed's question. Fareed, you mentioned you had an experience in startup, and a startup experience counts as professional experience. So, entrepreneurship experience, anything which is like that pays is the professional experience. But yeah, even volunteer experience would work. But for MBA, I wouldn't say volunteer experience, like applying with just volunteer experience. Um, One of the things that I've also noticed that it's harder to sell your entrepreneurship experience. Like where startup experience, if it's a known startup, that's fine. But like in my case, it was a family business, and something that I've seen, like not in terms of like placing yourself in for MBA, but for full-time roles. It's definitely harder because even at my firm, they told me that the past experience in Pakistan would not really be considered at first when I applied, which is why when they saw my work during that internship, they realized, okay, he does have a lot of experience, a lot to give. So then they converted me to experienced hire. So I'm sharing that so that you know that it's important to understand how to place yourself. Um, I hope that answers your question. Um,
Yeah, next question by Shazil Munir.
Great, thank you so much. I just wanted to confirm, am I audible?
yep.
So
Great, thank you so much for the session, guys. Just wanted to, Alex, I know that I'm an undergrad in my senior year, so I know I'm not eligible for the MBA program. But something that I've looked into for Fordham University is your MS program in business analytics. And I noticed that there isn't a professional experience requirement over there. But a question that I had was essentially that a lot of people during our undergrad have advised us that you should not pursue something that's similar to an MBA or a master's in business without having professional experience. So I just wanted to get your intake on that, and also how competitive is our application given that we're applying directly after senior year. Another follow-up question I had was that the GRE, Nikki, as you mentioned, is optional. How like beneficial would it be for us to submit our GRE scores? Is that something we should be preparing for if we plan to submit by the January 10th deadline?
Okay, I will try to remember all the questions that you had mentioned. I'll start with the GRE. Yes, the GRE is optional. Most of our students do not provide it. With that being said, we do a very holistic review, and I think that's very beneficial for all of our students. So that's why I always tell students, say you didn't perform well academically for your first year, it happens, right? But then you do well over the next few years. We take into that account. I look into your courses, the rigor of it, the progression. We have an optional essay to explain why you didn't do well, sometimes mental health, sometimes family issues, whatever the case may be. When it comes to GRE, I always tell students, provide the score if you think it's going to meet at least the average or above. If you are below average, do not provide it because that will absolutely impact not only your admission, but your scholarship. For business analytics, it's a great program. It is a 3-semester program, so you're done within 1 year, essentially, fall, spring, summer. Some of our international students do tend to extend to 4 semesters because they want to get that internship and have a little bit more opportunity for them to gain that full-time opportunity. With that being said, most of our students in the MS programs do not have work experience. The purpose is typically for students with limited work experience to 0. I think you will benefit a lot because a lot of our employers are looking for students with higher skill set, higher knowledge, and specialized knowledge in a certain industry. So they're looking for individuals with certain business analytical skills so they can hire them right away. Versus if you're coming straight from undergrad, it'll be a little bit more of a difficult push to showcase that if you're not too specialized. So if you do want to do business analytics, it's great because you can really enter any industry with analytical skills. In our program, you're going to be exposed to Python, SQL, Tableau, R, which many undergraduate students are not exposed to, or you learn that online, but not in a formal educational setting in New York City. So I'm going to stop here and see if I addressed all your questions or if there was something else I missed.
I would like to add a few things. Yeah. So MSBA is a great degree, like you mentioned, that being similar to MBA, that doesn't matter, honestly. Like I think like if, and I speak of this from the perspective of like people in Pakistan trying to move to the US. I think right, like after undergrad, going for masters is a great way to get into the US economy. However, I generally don't recommend people to do masters. Like if it was a domestic student or if you are to do a masters in Pakistan, I would say it's much better to do an MBA a few years later than doing masters. But it is a great way to get into the US economy, which is why it would make a lot more sense to do masters right after undergrad. Most of these programs are built for people to, just give you an advantage over just a bachelor's degree. So that's that. And one more thing. Sorry, I've lost my chain of thought. Yeah, I'll take another question if you have.
Thank you so much. I'll be in touch, guys. And just a very quick follow-up. I know someone mentioned that there's only one fully funded opportunity available for the cohort. Is that like the MBA cohort, or is that like just total all the master's programs or the graduate programs that we have at Fordham?
So the MBA program, the full-time MBA program, offers $30,000 up to full tuition for scholarship. With that being said, the full tuition scholarship is very competitive. It's very rare for students to receive that, but on average, we are very generous with our MBA candidates. So when you are ready to apply and you have the right work experience and quality, I encourage you to apply as early as possible. So typically 90% of our students in the cohort receive scholarship aid. In the past year, on average, it was over 70,000 out of the 120. So over half they've received scholarship. When it comes to our master's programs, the maximum we provide is 30,000. I do want students to understand though, just because it sounds much lower than an MBA, think about it though, our master's program is only 3 semesters, it's 1 year. Our MBA program is 2 years. So tuition is doubled. So tuition for our MSBA program, for instance, is about 60,000, and you're getting up to 30,000 for scholarship. So that's nearly half. So it's very similarly aligned with the scholarship that we may award you compared to the full tuition for an MBA program.
Makes sense. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Next question is.
There was one more thing I wanted to mention. Most of the schools, they require a standardized test, GRE, GMAT. But schools are moving away from that now, and especially like post-COVID. A lot of schools accept but one of the things which was great about Fordham, they were very very future oriented. Like they realized that early on, and I think that's why there's not a huge emphasis on the standardized test. And that's one thing which is great about Fordham, that it's your application, what you're able to present, that makes all the difference. Otherwise, it's just that how personalized all of it is. It's easier for them to know every candidate. Whereas if there are tens of thousands of application, I can understand it's harder to do that, and then you would have to put in a standardized test just to sift through that. So it makes it much easier if you can connect with people like Nikki. She surprisingly, I've seen how she remembers people who she's spoken to at these events. So this really goes a long way. It's a great way to and I would encourage you to have these kind of conversations. That's going to give you clarity and also make an impression for yourself.
Thank you, Wes. We should take another question by Malika Imran. Yes, please.
Thank you so much for this session. This was very insightful. So I just had a question that I do have 5 years of experience in digital marketing, and currently I am pursuing executive masters from NUMS. So in terms of the funding for the MBA program, so most of the universities don't prefer students that already have a master's. So what do you have to say about that? Do you think that I do have a fair chance in terms of admissions and in terms of funding, or would preference be given to students like undergrad, people that do not have already a master's program?
I would like to say something, then Nikki, you can take over. Malika, so a great resource is Poets and Quants. You should look into that. They actually share stats of how many students have already gotten a master's degree before they pursue MBA. Like I said, both are very different. The purpose of master's degree is to help you become, place yourself in a certain industry, let's say. Whereas MBA is more general. You can pivot, and then you can do that at any point. I'm on the higher side of spectrum because I had 12 years of experience before I started. Now people are moving to earlier, more earlier in their career, as opposed to having a lot of experience, because it's easier for you to get jobs. Most of the firms, they require they would prefer a younger person. Not that they discriminate against that, it's just that it's easier for somebody with less experience to mold them. So having said that, I think you're in a great spot. Your number of years of experience is great, and having a master's degree, that adds to your profile, if anything. It doesn't disqualify you at all. Nikki.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I echo what Ovais had said. You're not at a disadvantage, at least for Gabelli's admissions process, if you have a master's degree. I think many of our MBA candidates do. And at the end of the day, it's a holistic review. With that being said, I do take a focus on employability, number one, because that's what our partnerships with corporations in New York look for as well. They want to see, do you meet the minimum qualification? And they're automatically going to see 3 years or more. They're not going to look into your master's degree. that will be secondary to them. So as long as you meet the qualification for employability, then everything else is just going to enhance your profile. And if you have a master's degree that's relevant to your skills, that's wonderful.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, Zuhaib Ahmed, you can ask your question.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for the insightful session. I am a junior in LUMS and I am a scholar. I am scholar in LUMS, majoring in management sciences. My question is like I have done in 4 internships in MNCs, L'Oreal, Nestle, and my question is like, does it count while I will be applying for the master like as a work experience, or does the full time or a part time job experience matter? And also, I have my own small content writing agency, which is like I'm working from Pakistan, but it is UK based. So, like, does it count too? And what about the law? Like, you said university grants 70, almost half of the scholarship of the fee. So, do they provide the loans too for like if student can't fund themselves?
Vase, do you want to take that first, or did you want me to take that?
Yeah, I'll just give my opinion, then you can
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So hey, like I mentioned, like people coming from our context, especially from Pakistan, I think almost like more than 90% do loan as opposed to like funding the degree themselves or getting full scholarship. And I want to address one of the things, like one of the opportunities that a lot of LUM students have, which is like Fulbright. Like a lot of students, especially from my time, LUMS used to be the feeder school for Fulbright, and I'm assuming it still probably is. The thing is that what I noticed was after the Fulbright, you had to come back, and that would like basically coming back meant that now you can take advantage um, of the US job market. Even if you apply for jobs like a few years later, you won't be at the same spot, which is why it's it's much more effective if you do your degree and then right after you try to get a career there, start your career in the US. For that, I would say it's a much better option to even take loan and do a master's or MBA, as opposed to like looking for something like Fulbright. Now, in terms of scholarship, there are like Nikki also mentioned, like the Fordham is very, very generous with scholarship. A lot of people do receive, so it brings the total cost to a much lower. And that's why, like it's also it becomes easier for students to get loan. And there are like several entities that give loans, so it's almost everybody is able to secure loan. That's usually not an issue. But yeah, Nikki, you can elaborate more on that.
Yes. So to answer also your first question, so if you are applying for the master's program, then yes, your internship, volunteer type of exposure is going to be very relevant. We're going to look into that, and that is taken into consideration for your admissibility. But when it comes to the MBA candidates, we do look for postgraduate type of experience. So after you graduate with your undergrad and your full-time work experience that's relevant, that's when we start accounting that as professional work experience. To answer your second question about loans, so that's a separate process. On our website, we do help our international students who are in need of loans in a way where we list out some sample type of providers for you. And the thing is, it's up to our students to do their own research, right? Because every loan provider has their own rates, has their own considerations for why you need to loan. Some of them require you to have loans specifically for housing. Some of them will require you to have it for tuition base. So it's up to you to do your research, but we'll provide you the list. We have common providers that many of our international students utilize, but it is really up to you to go ahead and settle that and be in contract with any loan providers that you would like to go ahead and be involved with. Hopefully that answers your question.
One last question. Yeah, yeah. One last question, like any tips, like I am a junior lumps, like that would add to my application while applying to the US colleges or universities in future. Like any tip that you want to give me.
Right. So one thing that really helped me, I think, um, was the experiences, like extracurricular experiences at LAMS. Like at first, like because you don't have like formal experience, what do you show? And my like club experience, that was very important. Like especially in terms of like doing interviews, you had like something to talk about. So it's always good to be involved in different clubs and societies, then volunteering experiences that sets you apart. Um, Anything that can give you an edge over another candidate. Think about it. There's so many people that apply for master's programs, MBA programs. How would you, if you were to assess how would you, choose one over the other? It's like what one person can, someone has done more than the other, right? And so try to look at it from that lens. It will be easier for you to do that, to craft your story. It's very important. Like it's all about crafting your story. How do you present your story? Like a lot of people I know, like there's so many stories from LUMS um, that would get immediately get like full scholarship. I know I've seen that there were people with me, people from national outreach programs, like how they went through all the struggles and then they were able to get education because that's the thing. Like in the US, it's it would be like unthinkable for somebody to not have access to education, but in Pakistan, that's a real challenge, which is why you need to share that story. How were you able to navigate that? And I'm sure like a lot of us, like we all have gone through a lot of challenges. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's about carving your story. Think about it from that lens, and then like take on initiatives that would add to that story.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, Abdul Manan has a question. I think he also has something in the chat box.
See, first of all, thank you very much for this wonderful session. I have a question regarding there are two paths for the MBA. One is for MBA executive and other part-time MBA, and one is for full-time MBA. So I would like to have your 2 cents on that because I have 10 years of experience, bachelor's degree from another university and master's from LUMS. So I'm currently a working professional and also definitely looking for a pivot. So, would like to have your opinion.
Right. Yeah, so you're in a similar position as I was when I was applying for MBA. And um, so for the US, for most schools that I looked into, part-time program was not open to international students. Because one, you have to maintain your employment while you're working, while you're pursuing your MBA. Secondly, the executive MBA. Most of the schools, they pushed me in the executive MBA direction. Again, like it's harder to start your career in the US, the geography with an EMBA. While it's not impossible, obviously it would be harder. The easiest way was full-time MBA. And I understand the opportunity cost, like, you had to leave your job to pursue a full-time MBA, but you would see like the ROI is amazing in that sense. You would look into it that just taking a step back, that can really be super helpful. Like especially if you want to pivot, like you mentioned that you're in that position where you're looking for a pivot. You have to like give yourself the best chance. Like Nikki mentioned, how a lot of even master's students they complete their master's program in 2 years. That's primarily to give yourself a great chance by getting internship first, and then like most likely that leads to a job. So that's the path I took. and I would also recommend that. There are a lot of schools that offer 1 year MBA. I was not interested in that. One, like employers can see through it that it's just a 1 year MBA. Secondly, you're not giving yourself the best shot. So I would say, yeah, full-time MBA would make sense if you, especially if you want to move to the US. Um, and executive MBA, one, it's super expensive. Like they usually want the company to sponsor you in most schools. And then I don't see a bigger ROI on that. If you're based here in the US, I mean, both part-time and executive MBA would be great. But for us, I think it's full-time MBA makes more sense. Nikki, you can probably, yeah, share more if we're eligible for part-time MBA or not.
Yeah, no. So what Oves had mentioned, professional MBA, you would not be eligible for it. Because you would need to be required to have a full-time job while you're pursuing the MBA program. So you would have to be working. With that being said, for executive MBA, you would be able to qualify for that, and we do offer that to our international students. But keep in mind there is a price difference. So, like Oves had said, that typically those in the executive MBA program, they have company sponsorship. Typically, it's a little bit more than our full-time MBA tuition cost. And scholarship is different as well. For executive MBA, it's maximum $35,000 for the entire program because keep in mind, you are expected to still be working. So you are still earning on top of getting that company sponsorship. So there is going to be a price differential if you don't think you're going to get any company sponsorship as well. But we do offer that. And basically, for the executive MBA, you just need to be on campus once a month for 1 weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you attend classes and then you're done. Then the following month, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you're done. So it's very different from a curriculum, the full-time MBA, if you want to have that every day in campus exposure. And then you are networking every single day as well.
Well, thank you.
And I
Let's
just want
take a
to add,
question.
sorry, is there another question?
There you go. Yeah, we had a question from Zainab in the chat box. So she says, Wes, what were you saying? Sorry to interrupt you.
Um, I was, sorry, I lost my chain of thought.
It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so Zainab says,
There's
how
been
can I connect with both of you after the session for getting information of admission and especially scholarships for international students?
Right. Nikki, can you share your email or
Yep. So I think I responded
yeah?
to the one
Okay.
in the chat with my email
All
already.
right.
So
Yeah.
feel free to reach out to
Right.
me. I am hosting an information session about the MBA on December 10th. So register. Even if you can't make it, register because I send the video recording to anybody who did register in advance if you cannot attend. And if you are interested in other master's program, my colleagues on the team, they're also hosting information sessions. So I put the link below there. Go ahead and look through and see which one, sparks interest to you. And you can feel free to register for that and learn a little bit more about our master's program as well.
Yeah, and yeah, one thing I wanted to highlight was how so Columbia advertises how they offer in-semester internship opportunities to their students, and I did not know about Fordham. Like the program is so flexible that you can pursue um, an internship during during your degree. You have to spend 2 semesters as an international student, and after that you can work full time on your CPT. So that's a great opportunity. There were a lot of people who did that. A lot of people in my class, they continued their internship after the summer and for the rest of the year. So in terms of like, the funding aspect, it also makes it much easier. Like if you are able to, and I know like a lot of people from LAMS, they would thrive in this environment. They would be able to uh, do that. So that's that. And then yeah, one very important thing, which is the GA-ship opportunities, the graduate assistantship. A lot of schools, they say that they have like graduate assistantship, and it's very competitive, but it's not like as open. What I've noticed is at Fordham, it was like it's super easy. You make a little bit of an impression, you would be able to get that, and that adds to a lot. So from the first semester, I have been working as a graduate assistant with the Career Center and the academic advising wing. And while a lot of people told me that, how would you be able to do that along with, such a intensive course, but I think it was very, very doable. So that adds to it. That's a significant amount that you receive from your GA-ship. Yeah, so those are some of the things I would also like to mention here. Anam
Thank
has a
you.
question.
Yeah, Anam.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that what sort of courses are you exposed to in the MBA program? A little insight into that.
Yeah, yeah, I was expecting that to come sooner. Right. So, yeah, so interestingly, when I was pursuing, like looking for MBA programs, I thought about how, you can pretty much get all kinds of courses online. The value of any degree these days is probably not in the instruction. But to my surprise, I was exposed to some great courses, like especially like the program started off with like a lot of introspection. Like we do a lot of these psychometric tests, like disc profile, Clifton strengths. I don't know if we do it in LAMS or not, but that gives you an insight into the kind of person you are, like what kind of personality you have, and how can you force that for like to get a career in whatever you're looking for. So some of those courses, there was a course called Designing Your Life. Like literally, we went through how to, like, where we are at right now, what is our plan for the future, like what's our alternate plan, what's our plan if money wasn't an object, like, things like that. Things we talk about, but we don't really do it formally. So we went through that whole thing, and it was a weekend intensive course. So that's another thing. It's great to get that kind of exposure that you have, like, the courses are built based on the requirement. It could be a workshop format, it could be a class format, lecture format. So those are those kind of courses. Then obviously, like, the skill-based courses are there, like finance and all of that. The strategy course was great. Like there are a lot of those courses that I would highly recommend, but it was like anything that helps you introspect, give you an understanding of yourself. I felt like that was great. And being in an environment where like other people are also going through that, and the networks that you build, the real value of any degree is in the people that you work with.
Thank you.
All
Anam, you
right.
had a question? Is it answered? Okay, Zuhaib has a question, please. Yes. Zuhaib, are you there?
I
Sorry,
think
I don't have a question. No, no, I don't have a question. It's just a mistake, I think.
All right, all right. So I think let's wrap it up. Thank you so much, Wes, for this insightful and informational session.
I have a
Sayed
question.
Mahmood, yeah, please.
So, as during your time at LUMS, what were your extracurricular activities? Like I searched you on LinkedIn and I saw you were in LAS.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier how LAS was, I would say, a very integral part of my experience at LUMS. It was extremely, I mean, back then, LAS had a great reputation. I've heard very terrible things now, so I don't know what impression you guys have now. But yeah, it was a very close-knit group. And like I learned a lot, like leading tracks, leading things. Like it gave me like first-hand experience of, managing, leading, and that was important. Like building relationship. It was also very important to build relationship with different stakeholders, like working with other students, working with vendors, working with like there were so many things that you had to navigate. I think, that's the kind of experience that really helps. And again, like being part of Olympiad or Lumen, that gives you a great experience, exposure as well. So yeah, I mean, I would say those are some very important things that everybody should at least try to gain some exposure in.
Thank you.
No
Well,
problem.
thank you so much, Wes, for taking time out for this amazing session.
Mm,
Yeah, so have a very good day. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
guys.
Take care, everyone. Thank you
Okay.
for being here.